Okay, so imagine you decide to see what AI is saying about you. So you go on to something like GPT, whatever it's called, chat thing, and you type in, tell me a little bit about myself. And it comes back and it gets a lot of things accurate. It knows how old you are, knows where you live, knows what you do for a living, tells you all about your family, about your wife, your children. And then it sort of also mentions, oh, by the way, this person is also serving 21 years in prison for murdering their children. But it turns out you haven't done that and your children are very much alive and kicking. But that's out there, that's what ChatGPT is telling everybody about you. So can you sue? Well, we'll find out soon enough, because that's a current case. That's going on in Norway at the moment. The claim was issued back in March, so I'm following that quite closely. But there are quite a few of these cases going on, and we have our first result. And that's a case in Georgia, as in the US state, not the back in the USSR place. And in that particular case, a journalist was doing some research on a radio broadcaster, a guy who had like a little radio podcast type thing. And the journalist asked for some information about this person. And it came back and it hallucinated a case suggesting he had been convicted of embezzlement, from embezzling from an organisation he was involved in. And again, that wasn't true. Now, the journalist did not run that story, because he said, he sussed very quickly, hang on, that can't be right. But it's part of his due diligence, being a journalist, and his general story. He let the guy know and said, look, I'm just, want to interview about this or ask you some questions. Oh, by the way, do you know this is what ChatGPT is telling everybody? So he sued OpenAI, and like I say, he sued them in the state of Georgia. And we now have the result. I'd like to thank the good people at Brown Rudnick for their really excellent reporting on this, and some notes that they have sent me. They're available for everybody. I'll put a link in the description if I remember. And also, once again, thanks to Sean at Mobile World in Panya Market in Truro for the phone case, because I'm going to be using this a little bit. So he sued. And OpenAI, who are the people behind ChatGPT, they went for summary judgment, and they applied for summary judgment, strike out of the claim on a number of grounds. The first one was just the you have shown no loss, and in Georgia you have to show, it's not defamation per se, you have to show some actual loss. And he said, well, there is no actual loss because the journalist tipped you off about it, so he didn't run the story, so the only person really who knows about it is you. Yes, you were defamed, because you can't defame somebody to their face, it has to be at least one other third party. So he said, well, you disclosed this to the journalist. But they said, well, yeah, but the journalist knew it was rubbish, he didn't believe it, so there's no loss there. But we got on to two interesting things. It's, first of all, because they said, you are a public figure. So the malice standard applies. In other words, you have to show malice, which is to show that the person defaming you, and remember that word person, because we get into sort of, machine personhood, you'd have to show that they either were reckless as to the truth, or they knew it wasn't true. But they also came back and said AI, and this is the key one, they said AI is a tool. It is not a publisher in itself. So there is no standing to sue them. And also, there's a disclaimer there. They put a disclaimer saying, look, this is just for a bit of fun. We don't warrant the answers, and we warn you that this can actually hallucinate. So he actually lost. So OpenAI was successful there in getting summary judgment on the claim. But it raises all sorts of interesting aspects, doesn't it? Because, AI is going to play a more important role in public life going forward. And, there's lots of cases on at the moment in the law with AI hallucinating cases. I mean, some poor young junior barrister lass is now, she's being sanctioned because she put some submissions in that were all generated by AI. So the judge said, well, I'm sending a copy of my judgment to the Bar Standards Board, and it's also up to you what you do, because we have a duty to self-refer if it looks like we've been engaged in any wrongdoing. And also, there is now a case on at the High Court as to whether she should actually be held in contempt of court for doing that. The result isn't through yet because there's a couple of cases that they're dealing with on similar lines. Obviously, as soon as I get those results back, I will let you know. But yeah, so that's an interesting one. So the position in Jordan. Now remember, this is a first instance case. So there's no binding precedent there. It doesn't bind even any other courts in Georgia, let alone anywhere else in the US. People are considering whether to appeal that. I mean, I think this would be a bad one to appeal because he'd probably lose just on the not showing damages thing. But it might be in future that, you know, somebody suffers a lot of damages because, you know, AI has said something bad about them. So I'll watch this and keep you informed. So there you go. Just a quick one, because like I say, I'm just flagging this up as interest, because I know of at least a couple, about 2 or 3 other cases are also going through, so I'll keep an eye out, because it might be that different jurisdictions come back with different results. I was trying to think what would happen here. I think it's probably the same thing, because I think again they would say the AI is a tool, so the AI might not be able to defame you, but somebody relying on that, somebody publishing the results of the AI, you could probably chase after them. But there you go. As always, hope you found that vaguely informative, vaguely useful, vaguely accurate. Sorry I've been away for a bit. Like I say, I've been tied up on all sorts of actual real legal work. I was up in the RCJ yesterday. Oh God, that was a long drive back. Got home at 11:30. But actually, I managed to get a mate to come along and say, you like a day out in London, don't you? And tell you what, you can drive my truck and I'll put all the diesel in it, as long as you actually point it in the right direction. Oh, the sun's coming out now, so I'll spin this round. Like I say, back at Pentia, one of my favourite places, because I've got lots of work to do, so momentarily I am going to go off and actually do that. But I'll leave you with, I can't actually see what I'm pointing at, but I'm hoping that's a nice view of the sea for you.